Hi, this is Darien Rivera, and in my group I have Isaiah Yerardi and Luis Salazar. And for our group project, we will be going over the Winecoff Hotel fire. Okay, so a brief history on the hotel. The Winecoff Hotel is still open to this day and is now known as the Ellis Hotel. It was opened in 1913 as one of the tallest buildings in Atlanta, Georgia, and the structure was made of brick ordinary joist construction, and guest rooms extended from the 3rd to the 15th floors, with 15 rooms on a typical floor. The Winecoff Hotel is known for the deadliest hotel fire in the United States, which we will cover later. And out of the 304 guests, 119 people died, 65 were injured, and about 120 were rescued unharmed. And there was no proof of how the fire started, but it was suspected that a chair and mattress ignited from a cigarette. And unfortunately, there was only one stairwell for the 15 floors where everyone above the 3rd floor were trapped. So some structural issues with the hotel. One of the fire codes for buildings back in 1913 was that if a building had 5,000 square feet per floor, it was required to have multiple staircases. The Winecoff was under this with 4,386 square feet. The building was advertised to be fireproof with a steel frame protected structural clay and concrete fireproofing. The inside had no fire-resistant doors and as many as 7 layers of wallpaper throughout the building. And the hotel was not equipped with sprinkler systems. However, each floor had a standpipe and hose rack. Despite all of these, the building did meet the existing codes at the time, thereby allowing for it to be given the fireproof distinction. So as far as the incident, the fire was first noticed at about 3:15 a.m. by a bellboy, and the first and only call to the fire department was made at 3:42 by the night manager. Upon arrival, the firefighters saw smoke and flames were being emitted from the 3rd, 4th, and 5th floors. The fire's point of origin was on the 3rd floor west hallway, where a mattress and chair had been temporarily placed in the corridor close to the stairway on the 4th floor. The building's fire alarm was not sounded, but by that point there was no escape was possible on the upper levels. And by the time the first engine and ladder arrived, which was 30 seconds after the call, people were already jumping out of the windows. So the fire spread was initially hampered by the stair arrangement. While the stairs were not closed off by the doors, the configuration placed an ascending and descending runs around the corner from each other, keeping fire and hot gas from quickly ascending the stairs. However, open transoms between the rooms and the corridors admitted fresh air for combustion, allowing the fire to climb to all but the 2 top floors. However, once established in the corridors, the fire fed on the burlap wall coverings. It ignited rooms and decors and transoms, and guests opened their windows seeking fresh air and rescue, which further enabled the draft of fresh air to the fire. And the fire investigation revealed that an open transom was closely associated with the ignition of the given guest rooms and its contents. And then as far as suppression, the fire suppression for the fire consisted of 385 firefighters, 22 engines, and 11 ladder trucks. Firefighters set an interior attack through the stairways, advancing hose lines to floors above the 3rd floor. As additional hose streams were being deployed, the hoses began to become tangled, adding more difficulty to the task. Nets were being held by firefighters to catch people jumping from the upper floors. Aerial ladders were being set to reach as many people. The longest ladder on the scene was 100 feet. This ladder was only able to reach occupants on the 8th floor. So firefighters were hampered, in some cases injured by falling bodies. As you can see in the picture here on this slide, some guests were able to climb down a few stairs to reach the ladders because they were using bed sheets that they were tying together and using them out the window. However, many guests fell while attempting to reach the ladders this way. Others also misjudged the 10-foot wide alley between the rear of the Winecoff and the nearby building, that they attempted to jump across the gap into the building. Several of the nets were also destroyed as the victims from the upper floors struck them with such force. So the aftermath of the fire, of the 304 guests in the hotel that night, 119 died and about 65 were injured and about 120 were rescued uninjured. The deaths included the hotel's original owners, the Winecoffs, who lived in an apartment in the hotel, 32 deaths were among those who jumped or who fell while trying to descend ropes made of sheets tied together. Among the hotel guests were 40 high school students on the state YMCA of Georgia sponsored trip to Atlanta for a state youth and government legislative program, 30 of whom died. Between $3 and $4 million in claims were brought against the hotel's owners, but insurance awards totaled only about $350,000. Following the fire, a national conference on fire prevention was convened in 1947 at the direction of U.S. President Harry Truman in response to the Winecoff fire, as well as the LaSalle fire, which occurred shortly beforehand. Both had a major impact on building codes as they highlighted the problems associated with unprotected stair openings, which provide paths for the spread of smoke and fire, and simultaneously prevented the use of stairs for escape. And as a result of this fire, many of the fire codes that were in existence at the time were reviewed, analyzed, and later changed and improved. One recognition was the existence of a flashover as a means of fire propagation. Okay, and some further takeaways of the incident. The interior furnishings were of ordinary combustible materials in the hotel, which further added to the flame. There were no automatic sprinkler systems installed in the buildings, as well as fire alarms. So because of this, most guests weren't aware that there was a fire until smoke filled their rooms. There was also an absence of exterior fire escapes. There was an absence of installation of fire doors. Since the doors were not self-closing, people ran out the doors and left them open, and this allowed more aeration for the growing fire, and the open center core stairway, which also aerated the fire. And to conclude, significant changes in North American building codes and fire suppression regulations following the Winecoff Hotel fire have ultimately resulted in less devastating fires. The Winecoff Hotel fire has become a textbook example of fire prevention, and it must always be revisited and studied in order to understand the consequences of poor regulations. The Winecoff fire has been compared a lot to the Oakland ghost ship fire, kind of in relation to neglect for a lot of these fire suppression regulations and building codes. Okay, and that concludes our group study of the Winecoff Hotel fire, and here are our references, and thank you for watching.